When the hour is upon us, I'd like to bring the village board meeting to order, 6 p.m., November 13th, 2023, and we'll start with a roll call.
Washburn?
Here.
Venturini?
Here.
Bhatia?
Here.
Hewitt?
Here.
Anastasio?
Here.
DeGroot?
He's here. So let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll move on to public comment. Members of the public are welcome to provide any comments on any matter. Please listen for the president to recognize you. State your name and address for the public record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And again, as a reminder, we have 2 opportunities today for public comment. This is the normal public comment where you can speak about anything. A little bit later in this meeting, we'll have a public hearing regarding adopting the 2024 budget, and you can speak to that as well.
And there's a public hearing on Kinzie Avenue.
And then there's the public hearing on Kinzie Avenue, which will have its own set of public comment. So for the first batch of public comment, I have nobody signed up. Is anybody wishing to speak on any of the matters that aren't otherwise agended? And the clerk should recognize that Trustee Doxey has joined us. So nobody wishing to speak at public comment, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move for a motion of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that motion carries. So let's get on to the new business in front of us tonight. We are adopting the proposed budget, and that begins with the public hearing, right?
There we go.
So I'll open the public hearing on the proposed 2024 budget and setting the tax levy, which is Resolution 36-2023. The following rules apply to the public hearing and each of the public hearings scheduled for tonight. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public hearing form, which you can find on the table at the entrance. Once recognized, speakers should come to the podium over here and identify themselves with their name and address. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Speakers must direct all discussions towards the board. I will not allow interchange between members of the audience and the speaker. Please do not interfere with nor interject comments while another person has the floor. Please keep all comments on the particular item before the board and no longer than 5 minutes. And finally, please turn off or mute your cell phones and other electronic devices. So I'd like to recognize Paul to give us a summary of the 2024 budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening we're here to introduce and discuss the 2024 budget for the village. The adoption of a budget then consists of setting the tax levy and the tax bills for the village for the budget year of 2024 on your December 2023 tax bills. See if I can remember how this all works. Most of the public is interested in what does this all mean for them individually, so we wanted to talk about the tax rate, the tax levy, and the reassessment that occurred. So in 2023, the village went through a reassessment, and the average homeowner saw a 7.1% increase in the value of property, residential property that being. The village is anticipating, if adopted this evening, the budget as proposed, a $6.07 per thousand tax rate to support the village for 2024. The year-ago tax rate was $6.26. So the tax rate is actually declining by 3% from where it was a year ago. The total tax levy to support the village going forward is proposed to be $25,004,100. That's a 3.7% increase from where it was a year ago, which was $24.1 million. So given that the tax values are going up by 7% and the tax rate is declining by 3.3%, the average taxpayer will see about a 3.8% increase in their village tax. Other impacts that are going to be on the tax bill would be an increase of about $19.62 for the recycling fee, and that would take the total recycling fee to $39.24. The previous year's recycling fee was $19.62. We're also expecting a 5% increase in sewer rates for next year, which amounts to about $20 for the average homeowner. All in, a property which was assessed at $250,000 a year ago will see their tax bill go up by about $60 for the village, $20 for the recycling fee, and $20 for a sewer fee, all in $100 increase in their total village obligations. This particular budget would enhance services by adding a full-time person to our Public Works Department, and that person would be shared between Public Works and the Sewer Department. Other improvements is an increase in salt purchases, which will help to make sure that village roads during this winter season will be addressed with salt application. One other major item that's included in the budget that does not impact the tax levy is a $1 million contribution to the other post-employment benefits. That is something that the board will consider early in next year and potentially take it out of reserves. Major infrastructure projects that the village are proposing for the next year is a $13 million sewer project, which is along Chicory Road, which is a relay of a sewer main, as well as additional sewage storage facilities. There's a $5.75 million road project, which encompasses 24 different road segments. In the stormwater area of the city, this is the area that the city addresses floodplains to protect properties. There's a $1 million Hoods Creek project improvement, a $450,000 Deerfield Road relay, and a $250,000 Lamper Creek restoration project. Other capital projects that the village has included in the budget for next year is the design of a public safety training facility for about $800,000, 2 replacement police vehicles, and the replacement of the financial software of the village for about $300,000. Details to the budget has been available on the village website since October 24th. A copy of the budget in detail has been available in the clerk's office since that date. And other taxing authority information is currently not completely available, so we don't yet have the total tax bills for next year available, but we do expect to be mailing tax bills on or before December 10th. That concludes Mr. President, that concludes the introduction of the budget.
Thank you for now. When we bring this up as a business, we may call you back up for a little further explanation at the board level. But just as a reminder, we're still in the public hearing phase of this, and so at this point, I need to invite the public to speak. I don't have anybody signed up to speak specifically on the matter of the budget. Just going once, going twice. Anybody wishing? Now's your chance. So there being nobody in the chambers here wishing to speak on this matter, we can close public comment on that as we've achieved our statutory obligation. So from here, we can go to a motion to discuss the business in front of us.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve Resolution 36-2023, adopting the 2024 budget for all funds of the Village of Mount Pleasant and setting the 2023 tax levy of $25,004,100 and special charges.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. So now we can bring Paul back up if there are any thoughts and comments on this new budget.
I would like to ask him to repeat something. When you said the change for a homeowner, was that for how much of a house that's how expensive?
For a home which was valued at $250,000 a year ago, they will see about a 7.1% increase in their assessment from the reassessment process, a 3% decrease in the tax rate, and an overall tax bill for the village of 3.8% increase, or about $60.
And then there was $20 for the recycling and $20 for,
An additional $20 for recycling, for a total recycling bill of $39.24, and we're expecting a 5% increase in sewer rates, which is $20 for the year. Total all in $100 for a taxpayer.
thank you.
I would like Paul just to kind of walk us through the budget process, what gets us to here, because I don't want folks thinking that this is a number that we just pluck out of the sky. It's the budget process is a year-long endeavor. I know that Administrator Murphy is very instrumental in putting the assembling a responsible budget. But if you just could kind of walk through that process again, just to remind everybody how we get to where we're at.
Sure, thank you. The process is initiated early in the summer as each department head is asked to submit a budget to the finance department indicating what their operating requirements are for the coming year. In addition, each of the departments are asked to request capital activities for the year. At the same time, the finance department is reviewing the debt obligations that were previously taken on by the village so that we know how much money needs to be levied to repay those debts that are coming due in 2024. Then all of that information is pulled together by the finance department as we then look at the operating costs for not only the general fund, which provides the general government services, public safety, public works, as well as general government activities and recreation activities. Then there are multiple other operating funds for the village. All of those are reviewed. All of the capital items are pulled together. And then we look at available resources and what monies might be needed to be borrowed to support those capital activities. Once all of that is put together, all of that is presented to the board in early October or late September, where you get a first look at what the budget looks like. Then an individual meeting is held with the village trustees and all the department heads, where those individual operating plans and capital activities are reviewed, and the board is given the opportunity to make any changes that they wish to make. Then a public hearing notice is pulled together for the proposed budget, which is the public hearing notice that was put in the newspaper late last month, noticing this meeting this evening in which a public hearing is held, at which time then the board can finally consider the 2024 operating and capital plans.
Appreciate the wrap-up. Mr. Murphy, did you want to add anything? So that's how we got here. So any other final questions for Paul before we...
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
So as a new trustee and going through a budget for the first time, it was really encouraging to see the process. What Paul presented to us and what the department heads came to us with. Like they said, it wasn't a number that was just grabbed out of the air. A lot of work went into it, and as a new trustee, it was really encouraging to see that when the department heads came in and said, this is what I need and this is what I want, they realized the difference in what could be done. So again, as a new trustee, it was really nice to see the light and see how the process goes.
Hey, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Just to expand on what Jim was saying, not just that, but it's itemized in what we see. So we get to see not only the process, but itemized what they need, and then they explain each of the items or each of the pieces of the puzzle so that we have a really good understanding of why we're requesting this, like the police vehicles, fire engines that we need to look at replacement and why, what's going on with those and everything. So it's really done well, and I don't know if any other municipality does it as well as Mount Pleasant does.
I'm sure, no, nobody else.
No?
Mr. President?
Go ahead.
I think one of the things that Trustee Doxy and Venturini have pointed out is the ease in which we are able to gather that information and the way it's presented to us. But what I have found is that what's behind that, in my mind, is also the strategic plan. And the strategic plan we owe to Maureen Murphy, our wonderful administrator, for bringing to us as a village. Prior to Maureen being here, we didn't have one. You hear about comprehensive land use plans that look into the future, but each individual department and the community as a whole did not have a plan of action that said, here's where we want to be in 24 months, here's where we want to be in 48 months, here's where we want to be in 5 years. When we're looking at the cost and the enormity of the cost of a fire engine, you can't just put it in the budget because when you finally need it, you need to be planning ahead about where that money's going to come from, when it's going to be allocated. As we continue to find out with police and fire, you know, we ordered fire engines 3 years ago that we still haven't, or 2 years ago that we still haven't received. So we keep moving that money forward. We're learning a lot through our finance department in terms of the proper way to account for the various pieces of equipment that are ordered. We've learned a lot as a trustee in how that money needs to be handled. But that strategic plan allowed us to sit in our individual committee meetings. So we had not only the meetings with finance department, but also we all sit on multiple committees. And in each of those committees, we discussed with the department head what their needs were, and they had been able to create their plan out of this strategic plan over the years. So I find that to be very, very invaluable to us and a huge planning tool and something that has been very successful in keeping, in my mind, a very complicated project of the budget of understanding how $25 million is going to be spent. They've made it very easy to understand for, I think, not only us as trustees, but hopefully the people in the residents in the community who want to read through and understand it as well. We're in great shape. Thank you.
Well, I certainly echo what Trustee Washburn just said, and again, you know, to look at this, by the time it all sifts and sorts out, I think that at the board level, we can feel very confident that this is a responsible budget that serves our residents very well. So I just wanted to thank Paul and your crack staff of you know, really good people in your department. Well
This
done.
budget couldn't come together without the staff, because they do work very, very hard. And you have an excellent staff here at the village in your finance department.
Stand up, girls.
Yeah.
No one's standing, sorry, I guess they.
Okay, so there is a motion in front of us to adopt the budget, Resolution 36-2023. Roll call, please.
Washburn,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Hewitt,
Aye.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot,
Aye, that motion passes, and we have an adopted budget.
We should have a cake. Oh, it's not in the budget.
So from here, we need to move on to the next public hearing item. I will open public hearing on Resolution 35. Excuse me?
Motion.
Oh, okay.
The park impact.
Thank you. There's another item here that we got to get to first, which is a discussion possible action regarding Resolution 33-2023, a resolution amending Resolution 13-2022, adopting the 2023 budget for the Village of Mount Pleasant for the parks and park impact fee funds to provide $50,000 for completion of Campus Park. Denise?
Okay, this is actually an amendment to the current budget that we're already in.
That's correct.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 33-2023, amending Resolution 13-2022, adopting the 2023 budget for the Village of Mount Pleasant for the parks and park impact fee funds to provide $50,000 for completion of Campus Park.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. And so this is something that either Mr. Schultz could take up or we can go to Paul as well. But why don't you lead off, Sam?
I kind of want to throw it to Paul just to mess with him. But no, this
Okay.
is the transfer for 25 grand as he said, to complete some asphalt work. Some of the pathways out there are still under some negotiation on finalizing those. And then just some extra work to make sure that the lawns and grassy areas are ready for a full season next year. We had a tough spring this year finalizing the construction, so we want to try to avoid that as much as possible and get out ahead of it. And so this is our Parks and Recreation Manager, George Baumgart, his efforts to do that and make sure that we can start as early as the weather allows in the spring.
Thank you, Sam. Did you want to add anything, Paul?
Sam did a great job.
Because there was some question on who to throw it to first, and then Sam said that maybe he'd take care of some things on the back end, and then I forgot. So it all works out. So then on the matter of Resolution 33-2023, roll call, please.
Washburn,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Hewitt,
Aye.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, so now we move on to the next public hearing item, G3AI. I'll open up a public hearing on Resolution 35-2023 regarding a special assessment for the benefited properties for curb and gutter improvements along Kinzie Avenue. And the rules that I read earlier regarding conduct of public hearings, when you speak, who you speak, they still apply. And let's go to Mr. Byer.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this will be the final resolution for the curb and gutter assessments on Kinzie Avenue. As the board probably remembers, you previously passed a preliminary resolution which indicates the intent to assess for curb and gutter on this project specifically. And what that does is triggers myself or my office to prepare an engineer's report, and that engineer's report lays out what costs are applicable and to what properties, what affected properties within the project limits. So I completed that, which is then given to the village clerk, and then she notices a public hearing, which we will be having shortly here. And she sends out a notice to all the affected properties that public hearing will occur on said date. And then she also notifies them that this engineer's report that I prepared is on file in her office for viewing prior to this public hearing. So that's where we find ourselves now with these last two steps of the public hearing and then the adoption of the final resolution, if the board wishes.
Thank you. Okay, so this is where I invite the public to speak. Do we have anybody signed up on this item?
I apologize, I don't know how the process works.
Well, why don't you bring that up to me, and I'll recognize you, and you can go over to the podium there.
Well, it depends on what you're going to be talking about.
So I'll recognize Joy Adams. And when you get up there, name and address for the record.
So for the record, if you want to use the first initial C, as in Charlie, and then Joy, and last name is Adams, 6316 Kinzie. This is my first public hearing that I've come to. So I don't know what your process is. I don't know. I just hear rumors in the neighborhood of whether, that we may be assessed more, is what I'm hearing from my neighbors, is that we're being, than just for the utility. So that part I don't understand. I'd like some clarification on that, and I didn't know if the engineer can help me or not. And maybe I should have come in before and spoke to you, but at the same time, I'm just reading some of these things and I'm trying to go through the, I was going through the timeline. I've kept every letter, every notice that has come through. So I don't know if it's true or not. Because I live on Kinzie, so I will be directly affected. I want to know if the rumors are true that I am going to be assessed even more than just for the utility because my driveway, that 9 feet or whatever that they had pulled up, was not put back in asphalt. It was put back in concrete. I thought my driveway would come back the way it was. I do have concrete, so I had concrete closer to the home or to the garage, and then I had a piece of asphalt. They ripped up the asphalt to do the road work. Fine, I don't have an issue with that. You have to do your utility, you had to put your curbs in, you had to do the roadway, whatever. But it wasn't put back the way it was, so now it's concrete. And I always used to know that if it's concrete, then I'm gonna get assessed more, my home. Is that true or not?
I think what she's asking is, does the concrete have anything to do with the assessment, or is the other work done?
No, and just to elaborate on what's happening here, the curb and gutter assessments are assessed to every property out there. The utilities that are being spoken of would be the water main that was put in.
Okay.
But that was put forth as a connection charge. So nobody's being assessed for that.
Okay.
That only gets paid if people choose to connect.
Connect.
And there's a process laid out for that if somebody chooses to connect.
Okay, so the curbs and the gutters and my concrete drive that I now have a bonus is it's not over and above what your usual curb and whatever would be, right?
No, and yes, you can consider concrete a better product perhaps than
No,
asphalt.
I
but
understand.
That was something the contractor chose to do, probably because it was an ease of process.
And
that's-
that's fine.
yeah.
I was just afraid that I was going to be dinged more as a homeowner, that I was going to get dinged more because now it's concrete. It's just like if you had a blacktop driveway at your own home, well, that's cheaper than, a concrete drive. So that's all I was worried about.
We're actually looking for a durable product that'll make you proud.
Well, okay, I'll look for that. Okay, that was my only comment. So I think that's where all of this was just stemming from.
Appreciate your thoughts.
Yeah, so there was that, and actually, if I can add just one more.
Sure.
Please. The only notice that I saw of the preliminary, or whatever you called it, that first, what'd you call it? What are you guys calling this? Your resolution? Your primary resolution. The first time I saw that resolution was when I got that mailing that you're supposed to do at the end. The mailing that says that there was going to be a hearing today. So I got that then. In that part, or even backwards, it says that the village follows the village code, municipal code 70.51 says that they follow Wisconsin statute procedures. Wisconsin Stat 66.0703, okay? If you follow those, you're supposed to publish and tell me that you enacted this resolution, that something was going to be done. Okay, the resolution was done, but it says it should also be mailed to everyone, to every interested person. This is the first time I ever saw it. Was there a process? Did the original one ever go out to everybody? And then if it did, is there proof that you guys sent it out? I'm not arguing about any of this. I just want to bring it up. I mean, as a resident of the village. If you're going to have these rules, well, then you got to follow the rules. That's what they are. You know, if you're following the Wisconsin statutes, the statutes say you've got to tell me if I'm an interested party. Well, that's why all of us are here, because we were listed as interested parties on your resolution. Well, this is the first time I saw the resolution. I never saw it. So, and then according to Wisconsin statutes, if I had a problem with this, I could appeal if I wanted to appeal. I had 90 days to appeal. Well, if you enacted this on May 22nd, May, June, July, August. Well, it's November. I can't appeal, even if I wanted to. Am I right? Am I wrong? I was just reading the stats.
Chris, did you want to pick this up, or should I go back to Tony?
We haven't approved it yet. So your 90 days would start
This is in front of us now.
on the date
Oh,
it
okay,
gets
so
approved.
this does not apply. So what you're following, I just want understanding. I'm not arguing, I just wanted understanding. So the first one, when you guys did that, we don't get notice of it? There's only the public notice? Or what rules are you following?
We're following the statutes.
The stats?
Right.
Okay, so even
And
for...
our code.
Okay, so that preliminary one, that resolution, we don't get noticed as...
I'm sure the engineering department complied with the code and the statutes. Your 90 days that you're referencing
Correct. Yes.
is from the date it would get approved,
From the final. Okay,
which would be potentially tonight.
got it. That's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to have my ducks in a row. That's all. Thank you.
Appreciate your thoughts. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? Or has Joy picked up all your points?
So to clarify for them, Mr. President.
Sure.
Today is day one, and there is now 90 days for them as individuals to appeal the decision against their property if that's what they're so inclined to do. Is that correct?
The 90 days
Starts,
begins once the village board actually levies the assessment, so that is up for you to consider tonight.
and then again, in terms of her concern over the assessment,
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we close the public hearing?
Let's-
oh, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
apologize.
Let's get to that in a minute. So last call for anybody wishing to speak publicly on this item. Not hearing from anybody in chambers, we'll close public comment on that, having, again, satisfied our statutory obligation. So from here, we can go to the next item, which is the final resolution 35-2023.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve final resolution 35-2023, authorizing special assessments for curb and gutter improvements for benefited properties along Kinzie Avenue as presented.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Back to you, Trustee Washburn, if you had further comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, we had talked about this in our stormwater committee as well, and I just wanted to make sure that the public that's involved was aware when you were asking about the extra concrete apron that was poured. Tony, these assessments are based strictly per lot on lineal footage of their curb area, isn't that correct?
Yes, it's the actual project costs, plus if it's paid over 10 years, we'll use the borrowing rate plus 1% typically for the interest rate. But these are straight costs right out of the contract. They're as-built costs, and they're distributed according to front footage.
According to lineal footage. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Any other thoughts? Okay, so in the matter of final resolution 35-2023, which deals with the curb and gutter improvements and such things on Kinzie Avenue, roll call, please.
Washburn,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Hewitt,
Aye.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot,
Aye, motion carries. So let's move on to item B, which is discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 26-2023.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 26-2023 regarding section 82-133 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances relating to the amount of sewer service charges as presented.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Mr. Byer, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So this is an ordinance to increase the sewer rates by $5 or $20 a year for a residential home. This falls in line with the Ellers rate study that was done a few years back and has been updated accordingly whenever we have significant updates to our capital improvement plans or operational costs. So this increase falls in line with that to ensure we have the revenue stream we need to account for the costs that we have coming up. This did go to the Utilities Commission as well at their last meeting where they recommended adoption.
Right, and it should be pointed out that the Sewer Commission is its own taxing entity, and it comes to its own conclusion why there needs to or not be a rate increase.
Correct.
Anybody have any questions for Tony? Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I want to clarify, and make sure that everyone is on the same page. So that was already discussed in Paul's presentation of the budget, correct? Yes. It's not in addition to that. Just want to make sure that everyone understand that the budget, that resolution that we just approved,
Yeah,
already
it's the
talked
six-
about
the
that.
60 plus the 20 plus the 20.
Yeah.
Sewer.
Sanitary. There's an increase in storm, too. Not in, it was talked about,
No.
this is as separate as you're talking about, Dave. You should answer this. I shouldn't have gotten involved, but the utility, the sewer is a separate utility.
Tony, would you just clarify what Nancy was inferring?
Yes, we have a separate stormwater utility fee that has nothing to do with this. That's not being increased as part of the 2024 budget. This is strictly sanitary sewer. Per what we indicated, the increases would be $5 a quarter to $20 a year
Right.
for a residential home. That's all this is.
No, I guess the reason that I'm asking, to clarify, Mr. President, is that in the budget, we had a recycling fees, which is clear,
Right,
and then we had a,
$60 stormwater.
in the handout, it says stormwater fee of $60, and then I also heard a sewer rate increase of $20 per year, which is a 5% rate increase, so am
Right,
I-
but the stormwater wasn't an increase. That was the flat fee.
And that's the confusion then, Ron.
That's why, I'm trying to clarify the confusion.
Yeah, that's the confusion. The stormwater fee was a set fee. This is what we're doing tonight in our resolution for the sanitary sewer utility is actually an increase.
Right.
So the stormwater fee did not increase, it's just setting the rate
Right.
Yeah,
through the budget process.
okay, I just want to make sure that, okay, good, I'm
And
good.
does that answer the gentleman's question?
What do I want to do with this? If you're going to speak, I got to bring you up to the podium. Pardon me?
He has a microphone.
My name's Bob Bernie. I'm at 6308 Kinzie Ave. My question is, with the storm sewer we had installed on Kinzie Avenue, they went and stubbed it so they told us so that we could put our sump pumps and our downspouts into it. So they stubbed it into the storm sewer and buried it about 6 feet down, and then covered everything up and put grass on it, and then Now, it's up to us if we want to use it. Instead of them bringing it up where we could use it, we got to dig up the grass and the dirt, get a contractor, come in to attach to it. And it doesn't make any sense. Was that in the plans?
Tony, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, we put in.
Why that happens?
We put in several storm sewer stubs on this project because we had problematic sump pumps that were deteriorating the roadway. So we put them in where appropriate, so we could get folks to connect to them and get that water underground and get it off the roadway to extend the roadway life.
Okay, my neighbor's sump pump runs even in the wintertime. Now, if he wants to connect to it, he's gonna have to dig down about 6 feet in order to connect to it. Same with if I wanna do it, I gotta dig down about 6 feet. Everyone is stubbed for it, but they're down about 6 feet. What I'm getting at, why does he wanna pay that so they can dump his sump pump into that? And it would have been better if they would have brought the pipe up so we could get at it without digging up the grass and everything a second time and then replant it. Everyone has it, and it isn't just here, here, here. So I'm gonna have that ice about 6 feet in front of my house again. Because why would he want to pay to hook onto it?
I guess he would pay if he didn't want the ice.
Pardon me?
I guess he would pay if he didn't want the ice. This
Yeah,
is
but
it's an option.
Yeah, but the ice is coming in front of my house.
Okay. At this point, we're kind of past the public comment part, but if you wanted to have a further conversation with the engineer, one-on-one, by all means do it. I thought that this was an easy question and answer. There's a little bit more going on, I get that.
Yeah. All right.
Just as a follow-up note, Mr. President, and to the resident, typically in new construction, the storm sewer lateral is 6 or 8 feet deep. Water flows downhill. Your basement is where your sump pump is. It's at 8 foot below grade, so you're pumping water from that sump pump. But typically, when a storm sewer lateral is installed, you don't have the lateral up here and pump from your sump pump up to it. So it is a construction sequence kind of a thing, and I really think you should talk to Tony about it, because the way they installed it is typical construction practices that I've experienced.
Simple help on an extension of about 6 feet and make it so that people can hook onto it. That's what I was getting at.
Again, I think Tony can be very helpful.
I need to move on. I need to move on. And again, as I mentioned, the engineer will certainly make himself available after we have this discussion.
They could have. They'd have to have their own hooking up while they're there.
Yeah, so in the matter of ordinance
The right of way.
26-2023,
They have to, the owner has to go.
roll call.
Washburn,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Hewitt,
Aye.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot,
Aye, that motion carries. So let's move on to the next item, which is discussion and possible action regarding the award of contract 90th Street Reconstruction Project. And I'll go back to, well, let's get a motion on it first.
I'd like to make a motion to award the contract for the 90th Street Reconstruction Project to the low bidder, Michaels Road and Stone, Inc., for an amount of $5,225,185, and don't forget 70 cents.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Back to Mr. Byer.
Yes, so this is the section of 90th Street that is between Braun and KR. As many of you probably know, that's the last section of this collector that's still a rural cross-section, about 22 feet wide of pavement. The plan here is to expand that to what you see through Sturtevant north into Mount Pleasant, which is our standard 48-foot collector's section. And this project is all the more important now that Microsoft will officially be flanking the west side of this road. So it's the right time to make this improvement. The bids came in, 4 bids. The low bid was about $500,000 below engineer's estimate, so you got good numbers. And this will be TID funded.
This is one of the final TID projects regarding roads and paving and all that, right?
Correct.
So, Mr. President, to Tony, so do we have like a deadline for that? In other words, now that we have Microsoft very active on 90th Street, are we gonna have our contractor in there side by side with them? Or do we want, is Microsoft gonna be using Brown Road or KR in the future for access? In other words, it's gonna make for a very busy, kind of crazy.
Yeah, and there will be some logistical items that have to be overcome, but I know Claude's been pretty in tune to that with the 2 partners there, not only with Kapoor doing the design, but obviously Microsoft being the private site developer. Yes, you're gonna have some traffic kind of coming in both directions, but I don't think that's anything that can't be worked out between the contractors, both on and off site.
Well, now that you mentioned Claude, let's hear from the man himself, if you can shed any light on that. Trustee Washburn's, concern obviously is, we've got a major construction project going on with the Microsoft site, and now we're renewing a road that, we needed to do all along. But I think the concern is that, as the deep construction goes on, 90th Street is already getting kind of chewed up, and are we going to be chewing up a brand-new road, too?
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. President and Trustee Washburn. The question, so obviously, yes, we're in constant conversation with Microsoft. But the good thing is, this section is only from it's not really each of the ends. Braun and 90th are already done. KR and 90th is already done. So Microsoft has access off of 90th right there, which is already done. We're not touching it. As well as they'll have access off of KR is what they're working for with the DOT right now. So it's all been coordinated.
They were gonna get, okay.
Yep,
that's
we're
good.
planning to be completed here by the end of July. This was the last, we couldn't do it any sooner until DOT finished KR. This was part of our agreement with the state, that we received the 3.8 million of this from the state to complete 90th Street once KR was completed. So it's scheduled to start. The bids were great bids that came in. We hope to get the contractor started as quick as we can, but their timeline is end of July, they're supposed to be completed. And
End of
in
July.
addition to that, is we're running water partway down it as well for Microsoft.
So it's a combined project, actually.
Absolutely.
The need in tearing it up it'll be well-served. All right, thank you, Claude. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are they planning on doing any of the construction yet this winter, or is this being rolled over into next year then?
I think they're gonna probably start maybe the water. They can do that during the winter time, it's not that deep, and then they can actually bore underneath the creek, because it goes just south of the creek, and then it kind of turns into Microsoft site. But yeah, I think they're gonna start as soon as they can.
Okay, thank you both, Claude and Tony, appreciate your insight. So the matter in front of us, the award of contract, roll call, please.
Washburn,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Hewitt,
Aye.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, motion carries. We've got reports, and I just want to remind everybody, we've got a closed session that we have to deal with as well. But in the matter of reports, was there anything to note? The only thing I'll mention as a sidebar is at the previous meeting, the Committee of the Whole, we went forth through the first reading of all of the Microsoft contracts. And those contracts are available to the media and the public at this time, so everybody will have a better idea of what this next part of the Microsoft project is all about. So I need a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. President? Oh, I don't have this.
Well, I can start the motion. Mr. President, I move to convene into closed the session per Wisconsin 19.85, Print 1, Print E to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of the public property, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to consider an offer to sell land to the village for park purposes.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Roll call to go into close.
Washburn,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Hewitt,
Aye.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye. So the village is in closed session. This will be, what, about 10 minutes? mic until 7:30, so we gotta make haste.
Hey,
I can't believe I forgot his name. Oh, my goodness.
Jill, do you want these back?
No, you don't.
I didn't take, I didn't have
That's from Mary
this
Paul.
I think that's from
You get to keep that.
Okay.
From Mary Paul, and it is the report that the attorney for Ryan, the attorney, promised us. I don't know what it is.